transition on to question 2. So this one's for David. What's your Eastern Conference Finals matchup, and who's your favorite to take home the Eastern Conference Final crown?
With all the tumultuous news around Cleveland Cavaliers and myself saying that it's a bad team and all that, you have to remember still, this is LeBron and this is the Pacers. LeBron is going to move heaven and earth to get through this series, which I believe he will. May go to a Game 7, but LeBron will move heaven and earth to get through that series. But then who would they face? Toronto, Washington. You see, if we have a Toronto in this series, I'm going to take Cleveland over Toronto. And I'm going to have Cleveland going to the Eastern Conference Finals because LeBron matches up well against their best player, DeMar DeRozan. And if your best player is getting locked down by the other team's best player, it doesn't always sound the best for them. And I'm seeing the Toronto wave of choking in the playoffs starting to catch up to Dwayne Casey. Didn't start this whole bench like we've been seeing all year. We didn't see everybody coming off the bench. We ain't seeing everybody producing like they did all year long. They're starting to shift a little to try and be like everyone else and just have focus to DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry doing too much ISO ball. And I think that pressure's starting to mount on them. And I think Cleveland Cavaliers are still going to own the Toronto Raptors like they have for the past 3 years.
I mean, the one thing before I get on to my Eastern Conference Final picks, just on Toronto, I find this interesting. Toronto's always been known, they take a lot of mid-range jumpers. That's just the product of having DeMar DeRozan on your team. He's going to take a lot of mid-range, a lot of low percentage shots. That's sort of been the knock on the Toronto Raptors is you look at the top teams in the league. Cleveland, they shoot the 3 ball well. James Harden and company shoot the 3. San Antonio, Golden State. If you're a good team, you're going to shoot the 3 ball well. That's what Toronto struggled with. What I will say is you look at it so far in the playoffs, DeMar DeRozan shooting 39% from 3 and Kyle Lowry 42%.
Well, I think that's also, the 3 ball was a question of last year, which they sort of addressed this year at adding guys like OG Anunoby, CJ Miles. We're seeing Fred VanVleet coming through and making some threes. And Kyle Lowry can still stroke the 3 ball, and DeMar DeRozan can give you 1 or 2 threes a game. And what they struggled with last year, they developed with in depth, which Masai Ujiri always was able to do whenever he has his team, which he did in Denver and which he's doing right now in Toronto. But I still think that Dwayne Casey, as good of a coach as he is, I think he's feeling the pressure, and he's starting to revert back to that timid playoff model that they had.
Yeah, but I mean, just to go back to add a little bit more to the 3-point shooting, is they're shooting 43% as a team. They're making 12 of 28, so those are very good numbers. I don't think they're good enough to beat LeBron. I think LeBron just sort of owns Toronto, like David said before, but I think it will be closer than we've seen. I think it might go 7 games. But to move on to my picks, I do have Toronto versus Philadelphia. The only reason why I have Toronto is I'm a little unsure about whether LeBron can get past Indiana. If he does, LeBron will win that next series. If LeBron does, I think he will have a pretty good shot at beating Toronto, but the main focus here isn't really Cleveland or Toronto. I think they're sort of irrelevant when it comes to NBA title talk. It's all about Philly. I mean, Philly looks so good. They're beating up on a good Miami team.
Miami team.
Yeah, they're tough. They're not great, but they're good.
They're a solid enough NBA team to where if you have any glaring weaknesses, they can stop you. But to go along with Ryan said, I have Cleveland and Philadelphia. I agree with Philadelphia being in that conference finals because once they get through Miami, no disrespect, but they're gonna win. I mean, Ben Simmons is averaging basically a triple-double in your series. Joel Embiid's back. You don't have anybody. You have Hassan Whiteside. He had 13 and 13 the last game. That doesn't matter. Joel Embiid's a special player. You aren't going to be able to handle him. If the Heat had a star player, they're going to be in contention next year. But I have the Philadelphia 76ers going through, and with Boston being weakened by injuries, tragically weakened by injuries, Milwaukee just not a sound, fundamental basketball team, not a soundly coached team. I have Philadelphia pretty much just blazing through that side, and they're going to meet up with Cleveland. Now, the meeting with Cleveland is going to be interesting. I think that the 76ers are going to be the team to come out of the Eastern Conference. What do you take?
I mean, I completely agree. Just a few stats to throw your way. Ben Simmons, he's a rookie. He's a point guard. He's averaging 19.3 points per game, 10.8 rebounds, and 9.8 assists. Almost a triple-double. He's also shooting 51.8% from the field. So you're getting just absolute superstar play from a rookie point guard in Ben Simmons. He looks like he's the next face of the NBA. A lot of people saying he's the next LeBron James, but he's a little bit better of a pure point guard than LeBron James. Not quite as good of a player, obviously, but probably a better point guard. Then you have Embiid, who's averaging 18.5, 9.5 rebounds, but he's only shooting 31.8% so far. He's just played 2 games, and he's only going to get better, just with experience, just regaining the health, and he's just going to shoot better. And same with J.J. Redick. That's just an underrated signing that no one's really talked about this year, but he's averaging 18 points a game in the playoffs.
Philadelphia has range.
And he's he's averaging 18 points per game while only shooting 29.6% from 3. So Redick's play is only going to get better. Same with Embiid. You see Philly as a team, they're not even playing as well as they could. They were outshot by 14% to Miami in the last game, and they had 8 more turnovers, 27 turnovers. So if they take care of the ball a little bit better, they're going to just breeze through the Eastern Conference. On the other side of the Eastern Conference bracket, we sort of touched on this. It's either going to be Toronto or Cleveland. If Cleveland gets out of this series with the Pacers, which I'm not sure, I think Cleveland will go on with and play Philadelphia. If not, it will be Toronto, but I think Philadelphia beats them no matter what. Also, I think Philadelphia has the best chance out of any team to defeat Houston or Golden State, whoever it is in the West. Maybe they win 2 games. I mean, it's not like they're going to really contend, but they might sneak in a game
to add
or
on,
two.
to finish up this discussion right here, the Philadelphia 76ers have 2 talents that are very reminiscent of Penny Hardaway and Shaq taking on the court. Along with a guy named Dario Saric, Robert Covington, and J.J. Redick, as he mentioned earlier. They can spread the floor, and then they've got that guy underneath, and they've got that man at point guard in Ben Simmons.
Yeah, okay, so